Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SoCal A.I Talks podcast. I'm your host, Edgar, along with my partner, Luis. And we talk to business owners and entrepreneurs about their field of expertise and have them give us a little bit of background on their business. Today, we have Jesse, co-founder, co-owner of Rough Hands LLC. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Hey, thanks. Appreciate you guys having me on.
So Jesse, we see you offer a lot of different, martial arts in your studio, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. One thing that caught my attention is there's active killer response training. Is that like an active shooter response training?
Yeah, so that is a usually a multi-day service that we offer that covers. It is primarily dealing with, active shooter scenarios. We broadened it out and just said killer, just from the standpoint of it's not necessarily always a shooter. Sometimes attackers have
A
knives or
knife.
explosive devices. Yeah. So just broadening that out a little bit. The approach is generally the same, but the program looks at kind of unarmed and armed potentially responses to an active killer event. And then we spend kind of the last third dealing with trauma response, teaching the attendees how to use tourniquets and to pack wounds and to deal with that sort of thing.
Wow, you guys from start to finish kind of thing.
That's correct. That's correct.
Jesse, why don't you tell us a little bit about Rough Hands? Tell us how you got started. Give us a little bit of background on yourself and what that's about.
Yeah. So Rough Hands started 2016, I guess, and it was originally primarily a yoga studio taught by my spouse, Shelby York. You can believe it. Yeah.
That's a turn.
And it was actually the school was housed inside another school that I was running at the time, named River City Self Defense. And through a number of twists and turns, we ended up closing that school and kind of merging our efforts together into Rough Hands. And Rough Hands initially was just that it was a yoga studio. And then we also started with our kind of self-defense Krav Maga offerings. It's evolved a lot over the years, and it is now primarily a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu gym with still some yoga offerings and fitness offerings and that sort of thing. My background, I started kind of in the martial arts space. I started in Krav Maga. I've been coaching. I'm always afraid to count because it makes me feel old. Hold on. I've been coaching for almost 18 years, 19 years, somewhere around there.
Wow.
So I've been at it a while. I started teaching Krav Maga, the self-defense system that's, closely associated. When people hear that, they usually think of kind of the Israeli military, although we had a little different approach to it. But once I got my Krav Maga black belt, I just personally wanted to focus more on Brazilian Jiu Jitsu for my own self development. And I learned through Krav Maga and my coaching that teaching something made me a better technician, made me a better practitioner. So, as part of my jujitsu journey, I started teaching and coaching jujitsu from very early on. So, once I did get I guess it happened at brown belt, maybe black belt. But once I got to be kind of a higher level in the ranks of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I ended up we made the decision to just focus down because we had a lot of stuff going on. We had Krav Maga and kickboxing and yoga and jujitsu and this, that, and the other thing. And it just got to be a lot to manage. So we narrowed down our focus, which allowed us to see a tremendous amount of growth in the business.
That's awesome. I'm actually looking at your website right now, and I see that your age range is from 4 and obviously adults and up. And I see
Yeah.
you pulling a mean chokehold on somebody there. Both Edgar and I wrestled in high school. I got a funny story for you. After high school, I'm like, oh, I want to stay in shape, so let's go try jujitsu. So I went to it was like one of the, I think around here in Southern California.
Yeah,
After they became famous, every Gracie and their mom opened up a jujitsu studio, right?
absolutely. Some people even changed their last name
Yeah. As a
to
matter of
be a
fact,
Gracie.
oh, that's funny. Yeah, I can see it. I can see
Wow,
the
I
angle.
did not know that.
Anyhow, I go to the studio and the instructor, the main guy, and he's like, "Oh, I used to wrestle, and I want to stay in shape, now that we're after high school." They're like, "Oh, do you want to grapple?" I said, "Sure, yeah, okay, with who?" I'm thinking he's gonna pair me up with a student. He's like, "With me," and I'm like, "Oh, you're like way bigger than me," but I'm like, "Okay, let's do it. Let's do it, right?" And so, I was fresh out of high school, and everything. So, we start grappling, and of course, as a wrestler, you're trying to take them on their back. As a jiu-jitsu guy, he loves being on his back. But needless to say,
Yeah.
he had me tap out like 3 times in a matter of a minute.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu's, UFC shows, right? The most dominant martial arts, I believe.
Well, it certainly was. I think, wrestling is actually becoming one of the dominant forms of grappling in the UFC now. But, that may be neither here nor there. But absolutely, that's a pretty typical experience that people have, especially from kind of old school jujitsu gyms. So I'm not surprised by that at all. Where are you guys? Are you guys in Los Angeles?
30 minutes from there, Orange County, yeah. I'm in Anaheim
Okay.
area where it didn't land.
Yeah, right on. So my coach, Chris Howder, is actually in Redondo Beach. So I'm there quite a bit. So maybe we'll hook up next time I'm in town.
Yeah, good. All right, Jesse, tell us about what trends you're seeing in the corporate and wellness and in your case, tactical training space. What trends are you seeing? How's that impacting your day to days?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a broad topic. So I think one of the things that Well, let me back up. I think one of the niches that we are trying to fill in our community is we are actually maybe even internationally known at this point for being a school that attracts. We over index on female grapplers and we over index on grapplers over 40. So we've kind of got the secret sauce to get older grapplers and female
Yeah.
grapplers on into the gym and to retain them for long periods of time.
What would you say you're
Um,
doing that's helping with that?
there are a few things I would nutshell it by saying that we are meeting them where they are. So, a new person comes into the gym. I'm not immediately trying to roll with them and beat them up, like kind of what happened to you, right? Because honestly, so let me ask you a question. Did you stick with jujitsu?
No, I didn't go back.
The traditional jujitsu gym model tends to attract a very small sliver of people that are very dedicated to it, but then they kind of walk everybody else out the back door. And it seemed to me and my partner Shelby that there was a market out there for maybe changing the approach to teaching jujitsu so that it was more accessible to a broader number of people. You hear, I call it the kind of imaginary martial arts brochure. Whether it's jujitsu or just martial arts in general, you hear a lot of times like jujitsu is for everybody. Martial arts is for everybody, blah, 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 blah. And the fact is it's not true. And so we really tried to embrace that and figure out a combination of things we could be doing that would attract those people. So in terms of trends, interestingly enough, and it may just be because the grapplers that have been doing it for so long are aging, but we are definitely seeing more demand for a place to train that is not going to hurt them every night so that they can still go to work tomorrow, right? And that seems
Well,
silly when
I was
maybe
gonna,
when you're 21.
gonna
What's
say
that?
I have a female cousin who trains. She does jujitsu. She actually stuck
Yeah.
with it. Yeah, she has, she comes with bruises once in a while. She's like, "What happened to you?" She's like, "Oh, jujitsu."
Oh, jujitsu. Yeah, it's not the bruises that I care so much about. It's the blown out knees and the
The
torn
tears.
shoulders. Yeah. Yeah, the
Yeah.
surgical stuff. And I mean, it's a combat sport, that kind of stuff happens every now and again. But ultimately, we have tried to put practices in place that minimize those kinds of injuries and let people train safely and for fun. A lot of schools tend to encourage, if not insist upon people competing and doing all these other things. And ultimately we are a recreational gym. We want people to come in and hang out with their friends and roughhouse and learn some jujitsu and that. So we are definitely seeing, as the grappling community is aging, we're definitely seeing a lot more demand for that in the space. So I think one of the things that's really interesting about maybe even just, I think it's all martial arts schools, but certainly true of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, it's very localized. So we are always we pull a huge number of people from kind of the immediate neighborhoods around us.
Makes sense. Yeah, they have to be able to get there.
Yeah, to have to be able to get there. And I mean, honestly, the best jujitsu gym for you to train at is the one that you can get to regularly. And that often ends up being the one that's closest to you. So
And you're in Kentucky, right? Louisville, Kentucky.
yes, we're in Louisville, Kentucky. Correct.
How
And
many,
what's that?
I was gonna say, like, how many competitors are around you?
We're actually a pretty saturated market. I would say from large to small, we probably have a dozen jujitsu schools in the city, which is a lot for the size of Louisville.
Right.
But with that said, we don't rely on social media we kind of have two parallel things going on. We're kind of a tricky business maybe, in that we do have a very local regional effort that we're trying to pull in students directly into the school. But you know for instance, I just got back from spending a week in Princeton, New Jersey, teaching a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu camp up there. So social media certainly has been used to help us up our kind of reputation and findability nationally, but I would say it's done very little to impact people finding the school locally.
I noticed your LinkedIn doesn't have a lot of posts. So are you using Instagram?
Honestly, I have not been on LinkedIn and I cannot even remember how long. And that platform doesn't necessarily lend itself that well to kind of the messages that we have to offer. We definitely are on, Rough Hands BJJ on Instagram, and we're on Facebook. I think those are probably the two primary platforms that we are on. Shelby and I both do a ton of podcasting, both as hosts and visitors. So that has certainly helped, get us some recognition. But in terms of, hey, I saw your cool post on Instagram, I want to come train with you. That generally doesn't happen unless it's people coming in from out of town that already kind of know about our school because they heard about it on BJJ mental models, or they saw me on this, or they saw me on that. And they're like, oh, I want to make sure I go to that school when I'm visiting or there on a business trip.
Kentucky. You kind of remind me of those CrossFit gyms. I used to have a friend that every city we went to, she would look for a CrossFit.
Yeah. Oh, jujitsu people are exactly the same. They can't go more than like 48 hours without getting some jujitsu gym in, some jujitsu in. It's wild. I'm the same way though. So
Addictive.
yeah, absolutely.
So what do you what feedback are you hearing most from your clients right now? Where do you think you're crushing it? And then along the same lines, what are some pain points that you're seeing? Is it around scheduling? Is it around client retention, scaling, maybe some administrative overload?
Yeah, so I think administrative overload is, I think always true when you're running your own business. I think, like I mentioned, attracting a very specific demographic. We've been very clear for a long time about what our target student looks like. And although we welcome everybody else, the 35 to 45-year-old parents that are established in their career and looking to lose some weight or find a new social activity or whatever else it is, they generally find us. So I think we're doing a pretty great job. The thing that I'm probably struggling with the most right now And it's getting better, and I guess that this would go into administrative overload, maybe scheduling, is just building up a coaching staff and building up more support. I'm right now.
Like, so is it like
Um,
recruiting?
so it's tricky because we don't, I mean, I guess there is a possibility that we recruit outside of the school, but generally what happens is it's kind of organic from inside. People that have come up at Rough Hands that kind of know how we do things kind of step up and start, stepping into a coaching role, which has started to happen more. But with us being a relatively young school in terms of jujitsu, under 10 years, we have not cranked out a lot of brown belts and black belts to help us with the coaching chores.
Kind of what happened to Edgar. I'll let him tell you that story. But yeah, I mean, well, you mentioned earlier too that you're not so much a competition gym as much as community. You kind of come in here and be with friends and get a workout.
Right. That's right.
Gotcha. So let's pivot a little bit to towards like an AI conversation. Have you guys considered using any AI tools, some AI powered tools, like for maybe scheduling or member follow-up, maybe automating parts of your operation day to day?
So yeah, so we do on our kind of member management CRM system, we do have some automation tools. Honestly, and it's I don't know. I think it has worked out well, but it may come across as lazy. We do use kind of generative AI tools frequently to construct emails, or, I'm getting ready to send out a questionnaire eliciting feedback from the people that came to the camp. And, so I will at least get a base started with some of that and then work it. So it's definitely stuff that we have used for communications, outside communications. But in terms of, like the stuff with the scheduling and actual customer interactions, no, we haven't done any of that stuff yet.
So you mentioned some CRM tools or CRM systems. What kind of systems are those?
So we're actually using a system called Gym Desk now, and we have absolutely loved it. Seems like a relatively small group, so they're very responsive when we have issues or questions. It ends up really fulfilling our needs pretty well in terms of keeping track of. It's not. I mean, I guess it is a kind of a sales funnel or a lead funnel, allowing us to just really keep track of that stuff and getting them onboarded, doing some kind of automated communications once they are members, to kind of onboard them and do check-ins with them and that sort of thing. We definitely use. So yeah, that's really all that just about everything that we need happens on Gym Desk. So we haven't had the need to go outside of that to look for any other solutions.
Yeah, that's good. Jesse, you seem like a very hands-on guy. Like
Yes.
You like to be on the mat. So I imagine that you don't like to be behind the desk for long periods of time. What's like the most time-consuming task if you could wave a magic wand to get rid of it? What would that be?
Probably setting appointments and doing appointment confirmations.
Wait,
Because it would be pretty easy to automate. It probably is easy to automate because I do operate mostly on a script. I've got the script down to a point where if a lead comes in and I can get them to interact with me once, I will book that appointment. So being able to automate that process with all the if, ands, and buts would be great.
For scheduling, do they schedule? I'm guessing they schedule through their CRM system, and does that automatically go through your Google, or what are you using for business use?
So it all stays within Gym Desk. So I can essentially what happens, I can still do it if they want to on the website, but I've pretty much taken all of the barriers to entry away. So I'm actually the one that sets the appointment. I go in and type the names and the emails, whatever it is that needs to happen to book the appointment, just from the standpoint of I don't want them to feel like they have to do anything. Because if I say, well, hey, just go on the website and book on this day, they'll never do it. you lose them. So once I find out, I'm like, hey, I can get you on this day or this day. Which one works best for you? Tuesday. Cool. I'll book Tuesday. Here's a couple things you need to know about the gym before you get here. I'm going to check in with you the day before your appointment to make sure you don't have any questions, make sure you know where we're located, and to confirm you're gonna make it in. And that's a shortened version of the process, but that's the process. But it is time consuming. We get a good number of leads in throughout the day. Luckily, I've pretty much funneled it all into being web and email based. So we don't get a huge number of incoming phone calls, which is good. Yeah, I don't like talking to people on the phone. So I'd much rather just deal with it on, email where we've got some time shifting and that sort of thing.
So
You do great on camera. You do great on podcasts.
Yeah.
getting so much worse lately too.
So Jesse, tell us 6 to 12 months from now, where is Rough Hands 6 to 12 months from now? Where would you like to be?
So a couple of things. We are right in the middle. We are probably moving locations in 2 weeks. So yeah, it's going to be about the same amount of space, but this building that we're in right now is getting ready to get sold. So we got to get out. But we are moving to an area that is going to potentially open our market. We're going to be closer to some of the major highways, so we'll be easier to access. So kind of redoubling our efforts and figuring out how to connect with the broader market in the Louisville area is going to be something that I'm going to be spending a lot of time on. And then just personally, not necessarily as part of the school, although the branding is all still kind of the same, is I'm continuing to try to develop my kind of traveling business, if you will, going to camps, going to places and doing seminars and booking that sort of thing. So I think both of those things, kind of really focusing on broadening the market and getting the word out to people more, and to try to get that, always trying to get that revenue up, right? But get that revenue up at the brick and mortar, as well as continuing to increase exposure online and starting to book some of the traveling gigs.
I smiled every time you say camp, when you bring up your jiu-jitsu camps, because after that, both went to wrestling camp one summer, and I gotta say that was fun. It was fun experiences.
Did you have fun? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, imagine getting to do
Like
that as a
honored, like-
grown up. Perfect. Yeah. A bunch of people hop in an Airbnb for a few days. And
please continue to do your camps. I'm sure kids love them.
yeah, we actually host the spring camp here at Rough Hands. And then, we kind of let other people in the community host the camps. I think there's going to be one in Vancouver in the fall. Don't, may do some border hopping. We'll see about that. But
It's awesome.
yeah.
Well, Jesse, we are coming up on 10 minutes time. We want to also give you the opportunity to promote your business, tell people how they can find you, or any upcoming events that you want people to be aware of. Why don't we do that now, and then we'll wrap up and tell you what the next steps.
Very cool. Yeah. So you can find us at Rough Hands BJJ. We're in Louisville, Kentucky. We get a lot and we love to have visitors. So if you're coming in from out of town, please come see us. If you are in town, you should be training with us. This is where all the fun happens. You can find us on all the socials, Rough Hands BJJ on Facebook, Instagram. I think we have an X account somewhere. We don't use it much, but we're on Blue Sky. And Shelby and I are also some of the co-hosts of Fighting Matters, which is a newer podcast about kind of the intersection of politics and combat sports.
Brilliant.
Always.
Can you do me a favor and send me that, and I'll include it in our description?
Yes, absolutely. I'd be happy to.
All right. So what happens next, Jesse, is we'll take the transcript from this call, and we actually just upload it into one of our AI tools. It literally combs the whole transcript, and then it spits back any opportunities, if there is any, to partner with you on AI tools. I imagine it's going to mention something about scheduling, maybe about content.
Yeah.
We'll send that to you absolutely free of charge as thank you for joining our pod today. And if there is, any partnership opportunities, be in touch.
Awesome. That sounds great. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on, taking some time. It was a fun chat, and we'll have to try to get together next time I'm in LA.
I'd love to visit Louisville sometime.
Yeah, anytime. You're always welcome here.
Awesome.
Thank you again.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Take care. Have a great day.
Take care. See ya.